to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is evolution. And what is it to be evolved? What does that look like? And what are the assumptions we have about that whole notion? But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. So let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale, exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating and electrifying, energizing all your cells, all your molecules, all your electrons, creating this brilliant beam of light out from inside your heart out into the world. And as you exhale, exhale any remaining tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and very softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms to feel the deliciousness of that sensation, the tickling, the tingling, and just to relish and cherish and bask in the sensations of our physical form. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning, Jenny. Welcome. It's great to have you here with us. Today we're talking about evolution and evolving. So I had to do my nerd thing and look up the definition of evolution because we talk about being evolved or evolving, and I really wanted to have a look at what that means. So, and I think that this is very telling because when we think about evolution, we think of it. Good morning, Lisa. So good to have you here with us. When we think of evolution, we think of it as, I just lost it. I had it here in the dictionary. The dictionary is giving me a hard time here. Now I've got ads. Oh my gosh. Let me try again here. Oh, this is horrible. I'm so sorry. I never saw ads in the dictionary before. All I wanted to do was find the definition for a word. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, we usually think about the notion of evolution and evolving with a positive context. You know, it's like we typically, good morning, Jorge, welcome. So good to have you here with us. I don't think I've seen you here before. We're talking today about evolution and evolving, and what does that mean? We're not talking about Darwinian evolution, but we're talking about this notion of evolving. And typically we associate it with growth and change and positive change. And I did my nerd thing to look up the definition. And here are some of the definitions of the word evolve. So actually, let me look up on evolution instead. Here's the definitions of evolution. Any process of formation or growth or development. So any process. So there's not a positive bias necessarily, although we talk about development and growth typically in the context, in a positive context. Here's another one, a process of gradual, peaceful, progressive change or development, as in social or economic structure or institutions. And here's another one, emotion incomplete in itself. I like this one, emotion incomplete in itself, but combining with coordinated motions to produce a single action, as in a machine. In other words, In other words, something that's part of a system. Good morning, Rosalind and Isabel. We haven't seen you here for a little bit. It's so good to have you guys here with us this morning. Welcome, welcome. We're talking about evolution. And what does it mean? What does it mean to evolve? Because so many of us involved in consciousness, looking to awaken, cultivating our spiritual selves, we talk about evolving, right? And what does that look like to evolve, or to be evolved? I think we get, good morning, Bernadette. So good to have you here with us. I think we can look at the patterns of our lives. We can look at one of the areas that I think is an easy area to look at is an area of our emotional growth, our emotional evolution. Because the truth of the matter is that things can evolve not always in a positive way, like things, maybe we say they devolve, right? Where they kind of spiral down. Sometimes that happens too. Lisa says, this is why I have an issue with cancel culture. People learn and evolve. That needs to be considered as much as past deeds. So I'm a little confused, Lisa. So this is why I have an issue with cancel culture. People learn and evolve. This needs to be considered as much as past deeds. So cancel culture is kind of wiping out the path, right? The history, if I'm understanding correctly. I just want to make sure that I'm getting what you're intending to communicate here. So Dido, yay! Hi, Dido. So good to see you this morning. Boy, it's been forever. I'm really delighted you're joining us. That's awesome. We're talking about evolution and what it means. And so Lisa was saying cancel culture kind of wipes out the trajectory of things. And I think that it's a tricky balance to know where to have recognition of where we have come from without dwelling in that, like to be recognizing the trajectory of our history and to not be holding it as an identity. So we're always walking this tightrope between our past and our emerging selves. And so we don't want to be denying our past, and we also don't want to be prisoners of the past. We don't want to necessarily be dwelling in, this is who I've been. So I don't think it's cancel culture, but I think it is important to recognize that in any given moment, we can choose to be somebody else. We can choose to leave certain behaviors behind. We can choose to identify ourselves with something else. Lisa says, like if someone who's said to be racist in their youth can change and should be looked at as so. I think I'm saying it right. It's like, judge me for what I do, not for what I did. Oh, that's such a thorny path. That's such a thorny path because, we get all these messages in society that people don't change. They just become more of who they are. And I'm with you, Lisa, because I've seen in myself, as an example, I've seen radical transformation of who I am and how I show up and how I be in the world through my life. And I do believe that that I do believe in transformation. And as a dear friend says, she calls it a phase shift, that it's not just change, it's not solving a problem, it's actually a shift, like a quantum shift of state. And I do believe that we have the capabilities to be making these changes. And there is a place where we get to break from the past. And it is really a break, because otherwise there's this continuous definition. And I do believe we have these quantum leaps of consciousness and beingness that can occur in our lives that are really truly discontiguous with the past, that just like we're different, something shifts and we're changed. And yet we get to be informed by the past. So, and Lisa, your example is actually a really provocative example where someone is indoctrinated into racist ideas. And then as they evolve and grow and learn, they can reschool themselves and gain new perspectives, gain new wisdom. Lisa, thank you so much. You're so kind. Anyway, so when we think of evolution, things evolve. When we think of, even if we do think of, for instance, Darwinian evolution, the thing is that things don't necessarily evolve to be better, in big air quotes, but they evolve to adapt. They evolve to adapt. And I think this is something that we get to look at that's really important, particularly in these insane times that we are living in right now. So we can look at the evolution of our culture right now as, to look at how we have adapted and how we continue to adapt to the circumstances surrounding the contemporary plague, right? That we have made all kinds of adaptations in our behavior, in our social behavior. And we are allowing, we're passing mandates and we're passing laws. I just saw that there's a law that was just proposed to mandate that only people with COVID vaccinations could fly. That nobody could get on a flight unless you've been vaccinated. And this has not been passed, but it's a law that was just introduced. And I want to make you aware of it so that you can contact people if you have a response to it, but anyway, Bernadette says, for full evolution, it comes from our pure self, the heart. Yes, past events dictate or allow us a history lesson. However, I believe the past is a personal choice of behaviors, and we need to bring the future into a self-awareness, a personal growth, not where everyone else is within their security for themselves. A need to not follow the masses, but more so within. So I'm with you 100% that we have an obligation and responsibility now more than ever to be conscious, to be present, to be in alignment with ourselves and to make conscious, deliberate, aligned decisions and take action in alignment with our heart and soul. And I do believe, I think I agree with you, Bernadette, that as we are more aligned with our deep sense of presence and beingness and our heart and soul, that that is evolution. And in its idealized sense, toward evolving towards some kind of perfection. But I don't, the definition of evolution doesn't necessarily imply evolution towards some kind of perfection. And again, perfection is another whole story to have a conversation about. Anyway, Lisa says, my dad that raised me was extremely prejudiced. He was Archie Bunker. My dad was too, Lisa. Incredibly racist. He actually wouldn't let my, Lisa continues, he actually wouldn't let my Black friend in our pool because he thought the water would turn green, but he grew, much to my surprise. He even had interracial friends. So it's and good morning, Dennis. So good to have you here. Isabel says, when we are divided, we can't make good choices. And so Dido is saying, my signal's gone out for a bit, but I wanted to say that I'm happy to see that the main takeaway that people are making now with Darwin's theory of evolutionary survival is that friendliness and cooperation are key, not survival of the fiercest. Dido, I have missed you. I have to say, you always add something so powerfully insightful to the conversation. And I think that this is a really awesome thing to bring up. And again, especially just after this conversation about acting out of fear and defensiveness and attack, and the new notion of evolution is not survival of the fittest in terms of domination, control, and suppression. That's not what evolution is. But now we're recognizing that evolution is a collaborative and cooperative process where all these different pieces integrate and support one another. That it's not a war, but it's a collaboration. And you said friendliness, which I love, rather than kill or be killed. It's not about kill or be killed. It's if we look at nature, finally, we're recognizing nature as a system, as a whole that is integrated, that is codependent and interdependent, and just this wonderfully magical interrelatedness. And as we're talk about evolution, this is a massive evolution of consciousness on the part of humans, because humans our culture has been about domination and control for so long. And now we're recognizing, finally, maybe too late, but who knows, that we are part of nature and that we cannot dominate it, that it is a whole that we need to dance with, and we need to learn its dance, not try and make it dance the way we want it to. And in that evolution of thought, there's hope for humanity on this planet. So Rosalind says, our internal compass gives us an invisible guideline that helps us process and solve issues and make decisions or take action based on an event or the environment around us. This is knowing yourself. That's beautiful, Rosalind. And I agree. Our internal compass is a very, it is really the key. And that said, there are moments when we all lose our North Star, where we lose our guidance, where we lose the connection with the clarity of self. And those moments are moments of darkness and confusion. And the thing about those moments, is that as we progress through them, we adapt and change. And so it's often stressors in the environment that cause us to evolve. So Jorge says, how do you know yourself? Oh boy, that's like the $1 million question, Jorge, because one of the assumptions is that there is a static self to know. Jenny says, I'm lost. I just like life right now. Jenny, I feel for you. I feel for you. And what I can say to you is, and it might sound Pollyanna, and I promise you it's not, that in any given moment, we do have choice. In any given moment, we have the choice as to what we put our attention and focus on. And that's not to say there aren't many horrible, horrible things that we can focus on in the world. There are many horrible things going on. And at the same time, there are many magnificent, magical, remarkable, extraordinary, hopeful, joyful things also going on. And I can say to you that I've been through lots and lots and lots of darkness in my life, to the point where I would wake up and go to sleep knowing I would die because nobody could live and be that sad, and feeling lost and empty and hopeless. And I can tell you that you can make a conscious and deliberate effort to find even the smallest things that speak to your heart. And for me, nature is that gift, to be looking with wonder, to cultivate the eyes of a child, to allow yourself to not know, to just feel the breeze, to look at the petals of a flower, to be awed by the fact that you can have sensation in your fingers, that you can touch your fingers to each other and just feel the sensation. Because so much of how we feel has to do with how we think. And when we can suspend the thinking, when we can bring ourselves into the present moment, we can feel whatever the feelings are, and as terrible as they may feel, we can also revel in the fact that we have that sensation. You can get really basic, and it takes going from 1 second to the next second to the next second without all the dialogue or monologue that goes on in our minds that perpetuates the bad feelings. When you're feeling the feelings, if you allow yourself to feel them without resistance, they will pass. And so whatever the depression is, it's there for the moments that it's there, and then it lifts, and then it may come back, and then it lifts, and then you may feel those feelings again. But if you can be present from one moment to the next and look for beauty. I have to tell you, Jenny, that beauty is what heals my soul. When I'm dark and hurt and empty, beauty brings me back. So I hope that helps you. And Lisa says, these moments can be an incredible lesson. You can go down a rabbit hole if you're not in the right headspace. But when you're ready, wow. And Lisa, we know you're talking from experience. So yes, you can definitely go down into that dark hole. And it takes deliberate, committed effort to refocus your attention in order to move forward. So Jenny says, my daughter won't talk to me 11 months and it's devastation. I sleep to pass the days. And so Jenny, I just encourage you to find something that brings you moments of happiness, like deliberately seek out stupid cat videos or something, even on YouTube, something that starts to lift your heart, because whatever this is happening with your daughter, there's so much else of life going on right now. And I can't even imagine how devastated you must be by the fact that she's not talking to you. But there is a whole other world. And little by little, you can start to refocus your attention so that isn't taking up your whole view, and make room for other moments of joy. That you can still have the sadness over your daughter, and you can still have moments of joy. Jorge says, evolution is the first chapter of a book I rediscovered, The Seed of the Soul. Exactly, the seed of the soul. That's so beautifully said, Jorge. That as we evolve, we are evolving to be more of ourselves, more fully expressed. If we think about evolution toward an endpoint, I don't think there really is an endpoint, but it is a constant place of becoming. Jorge says, Jenny, I went through that. My daughter left the house. I'm so sorry, Jorge. I'm so sorry that you experienced that trauma and sadness as well. And Jenny says, very lonely. Yeah, I know what it can feel like to have that emptiness in your heart. And truly, truly, you get to heal yourself. You get to find your wholeness. And who knows if in finding your wholeness that and healing you, who knows how that may or may not impact your relationship with your daughter. But you get to choose life. And as profound as your relationship with your daughter may be, and the experience of the loss of it at this time may be, you get to see the vastness of life beyond that one relationship. And I'm not minimizing it. I'm telling you that for your own evolution, you get to choose life for yourself. And your life is not dependent on her 100%. The fact that she's not there is making you amplify that relationship. And you need to deliberately turn your head to other attentions. So Rosalind says, what do you value? There's a choice toward love and not based on fear. being aligned by taking time in nature, quieting the mind, back to body awareness, retraining to feel safe in the present moment. The next action or desire will arise. Rosalind, that was so beautifully said. It all comes back to being present. And what that means is not being stuck in our stories, like the constant tape that's running in our head that is feeding our pain or our doubt or our insecurities. Lisa says, I have a difficult relationship with my daughter and we aren't speaking right now, but that's okay. I even blocked her on Facebook. It's not always easy, but I know this too shall pass. It might pass like a kidney stone, but it does pass. Don't give up hope. Beautiful, Lisa. I love that. It might pass like a kidney stone, but it does pass. For sure, for sure. Jenny says, beat leukemia 2 times. This is much harder. I miss my 2 young grandchildren. I am, and Jenny, let's not ignore the fact that it's the holiday season and that makes it so much tougher, for Jorge and Jenny and Lisa and, all of us who have challenging family relationships. It's the holiday season just brings it all home, right? It just makes it that much more intense and just points up that much more of a contrast. And so I invite you to find something that soothes you, to just take the time to really nurture and nourish and care for yourself, because the focus on what's missing just digs us deeper and deeper and deeper into a dark hole. So please, please take care. And with that, I was debating on whether I was going to show up tomorrow for Thanksgiving, and I decided I am. So I look forward to counting our blessings. And yes, Jenny, evolve. That's exactly what I mean. That we can all choose, we get to choose our evolution. We get to choose minute by minute by minute. And sometimes it's really hard. Sometimes it takes literally taking your head and changing your focus so that you can see something else. So anyway, so much love to you and appreciation and compassion for the challenges you're facing. And Lisa is working on Thanksgiving. Lisa says, I have to work tomorrow, but then I'm going to Delaware to look for a house. Wow, Lisa, that sounds like a really fun thing to do on Thanksgiving. Anyway, so much love to you. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live each weekday morning here on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. Please check out the other amazing programming on EWN, One with the Earth, Enlightened World Living, the Enlightened World Facebook page. And if I don't see you tomorrow, I wish you a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. Please count your blessings. And I'm excited for you, Lisa. And oh, Dido, I'll see you tomorrow too. Love to all of you. Until next time.